In preparation for us talking here, some other themes that came up, you named your parents' work. You talked a little bit about your conversion to Islam, toxic workplaces, racial justice movement work post 9/11, and particularly in the wake of the 2016 election.
When I was sort of searching for a career path, even in high school, I didn't really know what it was not to do something that, like, quote unquote, left the world a better place, right?
Yeah.
I was surprised to find out, right? Like, I don't know, it's like late bloomer in this way, but that there were things like capitalism and making money for money's sake. And it's not to say I didn't grow up well off and all of that, but that there was something to do, there was something other to do in your life than do good. And so my dad has still working to this day, thankfully still has his job, but is in the international development sector. He spent most of his career in the international development sector. He does finance. He has done some really, really interesting conversation. I know there's rightfully so lots of criticism of the international aid sector, which I've shared, but I think, his work comes from a real genuine place. My dad go live in other places for years on, like makes friends and community in the places that he is. Spent a lot of time in Las Vegas, in Liberia, other places. Really, kind of embeds himself, which I appreciate. But anyway, I've spent a long career in that sector, which sparked some of my interest. She's retired now, but she started her career in legal aid in Appalachia and went on to start in different legal capacities in nonprofits and ended up with the DC bar. So she is getting a different way, right, to equity, to access, to helping folks learn living lives. And so I think, again, that was like the norm for me. And also, I think growing up in the DC metro area, I've had a lot of friends who, parents, I guess, who were in that type of, the private sector. So they was just normal for me to sort of think of that as like, well, that's what you do. You're like, I have relatives who are teachers, right? You're a teacher, or you're a servant, right? You're a servant leader, right? And that's what I thought of. So that's one aspect. Yeah, so just really, really embedded in my, well, genealogy is the right word, but my familiar pattern. And then I think from a faith aspect, doing my PhD work now on surveillance and counterterrorism and how just, I mean, there's no right word to describe how bad it's been in so many ways. I continue to see different levels of impact on our communities, on the Muslim and allied communities of surveillance and counterterrorism. I think I'm most interested and feel connected the most with sort of these everyday types of things that people from marginalized communities experience. So from a perspective, right, going to the airport and getting that extra scan gets me every time, right? It doesn't ever get less, I'm sure you've experienced that. Well, it never gets easier or less frightening. I remember at
Mhm.
Trump 1.0, memorizing the number of lawyer in our community space at work in case I got wrongfully detained at the airport. And experiencing those things in just the way that those types of things just infiltrate your everyday life. So for me, going on a work trip and being pulled aside, having my bag searched, right? And then having to go to work and like do a presentation or be a part of a panel or a discussion with colleagues. And that's a nonviolent action, but it's still like attack on your autonomy and your body, right? And so I think those types of experiences that started ramping up for me, and also, of course, post 9/11, but for me personally, more leading up to and then after the election, Trump 1.0, were radicalizing aspects of my journey. I think a lot about dignity in my work. I think a lot about what is it to live with rights if you don't have dignity, right? And so I think, yes, I have the right to sue the TSA if I feel I'm wrongfully searched, right? Or if I'm pulled aside on the basis of my religion or my appearance, etc. But like, that doesn't do much so that something doesn't happen to me. Again, that's a small nonviolent example. It's just the ways in which we navigate our complexities on a day-to-day basis, but the way those sort of draw you down. We hear a lot about these huge executive orders and the big things in those, but we don't hear a lot about like the everyday microaggressions and things that happen to folks that really just wear you down. Right. And so I'm drawn to fighting those. People want to fight back about the big things, and that's great. But like, I think the little things are really important too.
The little things are really important too. As you were just telling your story, I'm also thinking of the cumulative impact, right? They also weigh down
Absolutely.
on you too. That experience where you're going through the airport or you're searched or having to remember the number of your lawyer in case you're wrongfully detained. But then also there's that element of still having to continue to just go on. So it's like, oh yeah, but then I got a presentation and I got to talk in front of these people. And, sometimes there's the space to move into environments with that context. And then sometimes depending on the setting, there can also be that pressure to just move on as if nothing has happened. That's a part of what we're carrying into the space. And so when you say you think about the microaggressions and people speak up for the big things, but then the little things too, because those things add up, it's that cumulative impact and it's heavy, it ends up creating quite a weight for us to navigate in different ways.
Sure.